Good morning, children. So we were in the chapter of land, soil, water, natural vegetation, and wildlife. So we had seen land and soil in the last two videos. Now we'll go ahead with water, a very simple and interesting topic, and also we'll complete this with vegetation and wildlife because it is not in much details. The vegetation and wildlife you will have in details in your next class, that is ninth class. So okay, to going ahead, if we talk about the chapter we know, now we are going to water. So water, you can read here, it's very simple. Water is a vital renewable natural resource. Yes, of course, it's renewable. Now here there is a question, an interesting question. We can say that water is a renewable resource. Still we say that save water. Then when it is renewable, why should we store it? Because why should we save it or conserve it? Because water is a vital renewable resource, but fresh water which we drink is not renewable, or the consumption is at much higher rate than the production. Okay, we'll come to it later. Fine. So water is a vital renewable natural resource. Also, we have seen when we were talking about the land part, so we had seen that only 30% of land is available roughly for our on our earth. Sorry. So similarly, 3/4 of earth is covered, the surface of earth is covered by water, right? It is therefore appropriately called as the water planet, because when 75% of water is present on the earth, we can call it water planet. And it is also called blue planet because of this. Because when we see from the moon, if you take a picture of earth, it is bluish in color because of the presence of water. So we also call earth as a blue planet, right? It was in the primitive oceans. When the life started on the earth, it started from the oceans. Oceans, seas, rivers. From there the aquatic life started, or primitive life started, and from there the variations were there, adaptations were there, and then the species came on the ground, and then human beings were formed. Rest is all history. So the life also started from water bodies. And finally, most important which you should understand is fresh water accounts for only about 2.7%. Now there is one more interesting fact I would like to share with you here about the fresh water, that this 2.7% is fresh water. Out of this, 1.7 is in the form of water vapor or ice and glaciers. So we cannot drink that water. So finally we have only 1% of potable water or drinking water or fresh water which we can drink, clean water. So on the earth we have 75% of water, but out of that 75% only 1% we can drink, or it is safe for drinking. Fresh water is 2.7%. Out of this, some are in the form of rains, some are in the form of ice, glaciers, water vapor. So these we cannot drink. So only 1% is remaining with us. Rest of the water which is there in seas, it is not drinkable. In ponds, dirty water. So all these things we cannot drink it directly. So only 1% of water is potable, or we can use it for drinking. Fine. Now we'll see about water cycle. You know what is a water cycle. I will not go much deep into it. You have seen it in your primary classes many times. So we'll just go briefly. What are the things? There is collection of water in the rivers, seas, all these things. Because of sunlight and heat, it gets evaporated. It forms water vapors. When in the higher altitudes, the temperature is very low, so they get condensed. So the water vapor gets formed into water droplets. And when the weight of water droplets is not is very heavy and it cannot be maintained by the clouds, they fall, the rainfall starts, drops of water start falling. So this is precipitation. And then again it falls on the mountains, there from there it goes to seas, or it directly falls on the seas, oceans, wherever. So this is a cycle. So we have seen the cycle. So collection of water bodies, evaporation, that is water gets converted into water vapor. Water vapor then again gets condensed at low temperature, it forms water droplets. These droplets again shed on the earth in the form of rain. Sometimes there is hailstorm, snowfall, all these things, and then this is called as precipitation. Rainfall is called as precipitation. In geography, it will come now onwards. Remember, whenever you talk about precipitation, it means rainfall or snowfall. Fine. And then again it goes to the water bodies. Again this cycle follows. So this is called as nothing but water cycle. Fine. Okay. Now what are the major factors for water shortage? When we say that we have to conserve water, why we are getting short of water? Population growth, many people are now depending on water. Earlier there were 100 people, now there are 1,000 people. In coming generation it will be millions of people. So water will be in short. Rising demands for food and cash crops, because underground water is extracted and it is used for irrigation, because now they want more cash crops and more what we say yielding varieties, because population is growing, so demand of food also is growing. So to match with this demand, or to match with the speed of population growth, people are using more of water for agriculture to produce more crops. Increasing urbanization, cities are increasing where they are more concerned with water. Wastage of water is more, because in if you see in our rural areas, women go to the river streams to wash their clothes, to wash their bikes, to wash their animals, whatever they do. It is a part of water pollution, but they do it. But in urban areas, they don't have these places like ponds, rivers, seas. So what they do, they use tap water for everything. Even for washing the clothes, cleaning the house, whatever they want, they do it with the tap water, which is potable water or drinking water. So that is also a problem where we are facing a shortage of water. And rising standards of living. Now again, we have seen many times the standard of living. They use showers now rather than bucket. In a bucket, you can use 1 liter of water, you can have a nice bath. But when you use shower, it takes almost 3 to 4 liters. If you see our toilets, earlier we didn't used to have flush and all. But now a flush uses almost 3.5 to 4 liters of water, which we can easily clean with 1 liter of water. So because of the standards of living also are increasing, water is also getting short because it is getting wasted. Okay, this is about water. Now we'll see how can we conserve water. There are certain things which we can do for conservation of water resources. First is afforestation, second water harvesting, third drip or trickle irrigation. Now what does this mean? Afforestation, you know that in afforestation we have to plant trees so that the roots can retain the water, groundwater. Fine. We have to plant more and more trees. We have to create forests for this. Second, water harvesting. It's very interesting and it is now in vogue, in fashion, that people are doing water harvesting. What they do, they collect the rainwater in an underground tank. Just a second, I'll take the pen out. Sorry. Yeah. See here, rainwater is falling on the roof from there with the help of a pipe. Here pipe is there, this brown pipe. Can you see this pipe? It is getting into the underground tank. In this tank they store the water. When they store it, after rainfall, rainy season is over, the tank is full, and this water is used for irrigation. This water cannot be used for drinking because all that mud and dust, all this gets gathered there and it's underground, so maybe that area is not so clean, so we cannot use it for drinking, but we can use it for cleaning, washing and irrigation. So then what happens here? If rainfall is also not there, but we have water, we can use this water. We are not dependent on the underground water, which we can use for drinking later on. But as of now, when the rainfall is there, we collect the rainwater in an underground tank. And then that stored water is used for irrigation, cleaning and washing, whatever other purposes, rather than drinking. So what happens here? The dependency on the underground water is low. We are dependent on the rainwater, which we have stored. So this is called as rainwater harvesting. And now very interesting thing, drip or trickle irrigation. I know many of you know. Have you seen ever in the fields like this? See here, you can see black pipes here. These pipes, they have small, very tiny holes in them. So when the water goes through them, drop of water, so you can see here, drop of water falls near the plant. So water is not wasted. Like what we do, we plant a crop here, one plant here, one plant here, one plant here. So when we give water directly, so the area in between, I'll change the color. So the area in between, there is no plant, but water goes there. What happens in drip circulation and drip irrigation? A pipe is there, only water will fall in these places. Small droplets, you can see here this drop. Small drops will fall. So in this place where there is no plant, there is no wastage of water. So that water comes, it is being absorbed by the plant. So we are not wasting it. After this, we have another one more interesting thing which you must have many times seen in your fields. It is the sprinkler. Have you seen this? There is a long pipe. Yeah, there is a long pipe here. You can see this pipe. From there, the water is getting sprinkled. Like pipe is there. From here, there is shower of water. So it will fall. So it will go everywhere in drops, like rainfall. drops like rainfall. So water is not wasted here. So these are the new modern techniques which they are using, with the help of these techniques we can conserve the water. So I think it's very clear to you. Now we'll go ahead with our next topic, that is wildlife, natural vegetation and wildlife. So now here there are certain terms. Very simple, natural vegetation and wildlife exist only in a narrow zone of what? Which we call as biosphere. Now what is biosphere? You know what is biosphere? Biosphere is nothing but a narrow zone where lithosphere, I'll just show you these terms. You can see here these terms: lithosphere, hydrosphere, atmosphere. What is lithosphere? Litho means land. So the land surface is called lithosphere. Hydrosphere, water bodies. Hydro means water. Atmosphere, the thin air what we say, the thin layer of air which is around us. So these three includes biosphere. So in this biosphere exists the natural vegetation and the wildlife, because we need air, we need water, we need land. Fine, that's called biosphere. Ecosystem means this all things you have gone through. I think in your last year there was a chapter called environment, in which we have seen lithosphere, hydrosphere, biosphere, ecosystem. Ecosystem is interaction of living things and non-living things in a particular area. Suppose for an example, if I take a pond, here fishes are there, frogs are there, aquatic plants are there, water is there, land is there. So all living things and non-living things, the interaction is called as ecosystem. We'll just go through the definitions. An ecosystem includes all of the living things in a given area. Like I said about pond, so in that area. Interacting with each other, living things interact with each other and also with their non-living components of environment. So this is all about ecosystem. Importance of vegetation and wildlife, very simple. We require vegetation because we can get wood from it, we can get fruits, we can get vegetables, food grains, medicines, a lot of things. And wildlife also important because we get meat, we get milk, we get leather, we get wool from them, many things are there. So plant provide us with timber, timber means wood, give shelter to animals, yes, produce oxygen we breathe, protect soil as so essential for growing crops and act as shelter belts. We had seen shelter belts in our land part, degradation of soil part, sorry. Okay, wildlife includes animals, birds, insects as well as the aquatic life forms. They provide us milk, meat, hides. Hides means whichever we wear, like leather jackets and all, and wool. Okay, very simple, I guess. Now coming to the major vegetation of the world. So if we talk about vegetation, it can be divided into forest, grassland, scrubs and tundra. We'll go through this. Forest, you know, everyone knows what is a forest, right? So you can see here a photograph of a forest, a general forest, big trees, thick trees, very closely placed trees. Grasslands are big area or big area of land where only grass grows generally. So you can see a picture here. This is a kind of grassland. Can you see the picture, grassland? Total grass. There are no big trees and all, no shrubs, nothing. Now when we talk about scrubs, there are shrubs and thorny trees. Especially you find this in very arid areas. Arid means which is hot and dry, like deserts, these kind of areas. There are small short trees, short thorny trees or scrubs will be there more, not grass. That are called shrubs will be there more, that are called scrubs. Tundra is a kind of forest which we find or vegetation which we find in high altitudes and cold areas. Like Himalayas and all, you find these very long trees, sharp leaves. Can you see this? Fig, fir, all this come under this. Fine. We'll go ahead now. We'll see about the major vegetations. The vegetations mainly are divided into two parts, that is evergreen and deciduous. Now what does this mean? Now we can take from the word itself, evergreen. That means that area or that vegetation is always green. And one is deciduous, which shed their leaves. So what happens, even evergreen forest, the trees also shed their leaves, but they do not shed their leaves at any particular season. They shed leaves, what we say, continuously. Some leaves will shed today, some will tomorrow, some will day after tomorrow. It's a continuous process. So at any given point of time, there will be certain leaves. So it will look green to us. So we call it evergreen. Deciduous, they shed their leaves in a particular season. So in a particular season, like autumn, we see that all the trees, all the leaves are shed. So it is no green leaves are there. So we cannot find it green. So we call it evergreen and deciduous. We'll see what it is. Evergreen forests do not shed their leaves simultaneously in any season of the year. They do not shed leaves in any season. They shed leaves at any time. because if it's in a season, they will shed all the leaves like deciduous. But what happens in deciduous forest? They shed their leaves in a particular season to conserve loss of moisture through transpiration. Why do they shed leaves? Trees shed leaves because when there is scarcity of water, what they do? They shed their leaves. Because of, you must have learnt in science, because the excess of water is always given out with from the stomata. That process is called as transpiration. So avoid if leaves will not be there, stomata will not be there, so there will be no process of transpiration. So avoid that, they shed their leaves. Now coming to next part, human-made natural factors, degradation and vegetation. Deforestation, this all we have seen, it's almost same for all, land, water, soil, these are all same things, for even for natural vegetation and wildlife. The animals are poached. Poached means illegal hunting, because hunting is now illegal. So still then, what the people or hunters do, they go to jungles, forest, and there they illegally, they hunt the wild animals for their skin, for their tusks, like ivory tusk, elephant teeth, that teeth which is outside, that's called as tusk. So they make ivory, things from them, which are very costly. So they do all these things, their teeth, tiger teeth, their nails, all these things, they kill the animal and then they sell it in the international market. The animals are poached for collection and illegal trade of, because this trade is illegal. Hides means this total wool and all, that is hides, leather, skin, nails, teeth, horns, as well as feathers. So they kill the animals for this. How can we conserve them? National parks, wildlife sanctuaries, biosphere reserves are made to protect our natural vegetation and wildlife. Awareness programs like Social Forestry and Van Mahotsav are being celebrated in India for their awareness of conservation of wildlife and natural vegetation. Finally, there is a photo in the NCERT which is important, which called as CITES. Now you should know what it is and what is the full form of this. The Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora is called as CITES. Even if you remember till this point also, it's okay. This much is your full form of CITES, the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species. Right? Now what does this say? This says that internationally, the countries, those who have this organization, they will not sell or purchase, buy any any kind of body organs or body parts of endangered species. Now what is endangered species? Because what happens, if species are in good quantity, in the population is good, we call it species. But when they get extinct, they get short means what happens, they're because of illegal hunting and cutting down of trees, certain species go endangered. Only few of them are there, they are called endangered, because after a few years, if you don't control this, they can get extinct. Like for example, dinosaurs are now extinct, you cannot find dinosaurs anywhere, they are an extinct species. So endangered species means species which are going towards extinction, or maybe they can become an extinct species. To conserve those species, this organization was formed, and this convention says that the countries will never trade in this in the skin, teeth, nails, or whatever of the endangered species. They will not trade them. This was the convention. So almost 5,000 species of animals and 28,000 species of plants are protected in this CITES. Okay, fine. So with this, we have completed the chapter. Very soon, maybe tomorrow, I'll send you the notes and question answers. Then we can have a test coming Sunday. Thank you. Have a nice day.